What up, peeps? It's your girl, Dutch. Come back to Funeral Takes. Well, it's that time, you guys. It's movie review time, and this is for Blood Red Sky. Now, this one was through Netflix, directed by Peter Thorwarth. First off, this is going to be a spoiler review. I just want to get into it. So, with that said, if you don't want to be spoiled, then you can go and click off this video. So, with that, let's just go and jump into it. Um, I'm gonna say overall, I really did enjoy this movie. Um, overall premise, it's definitely been done before, just with a hint side of horror. We've seen many movies where it's a flight and it gets hijacked, whichever, and all that. But with this one, the character Naja, played by, I want to say Perry Baumeister. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. My apologies if I'm not. First off, I so loved her character, the way she portrayed her with so much emotion, of course, with dealing with everything that she had went through within this film. Now, this is set up, of course, uh, from when you see the trailer, her and her son. And I want to go back a little. His name is Elias. He and her are traveling, overnight on a flight to get to New York City because she's, of course, dealing with a mysterious illness, and the doctor's there and can help her. So, of course, she has to travel in the evening. Of course, there's more layers to that. Needless to say, things, of course, are fine at first. Just getting on the flight, whatever, unbeknownst to everyone, including her and her son, that this plane is not going to eventually become hijacked. One of the leads of the group of individuals is Dominic Purcell. He plays the character Berg, and I am definitely a fan of Mr. Purcell. He's been in many things I've loved over the years. With this particular one, I will say this. The group of men who are fully involved with him, not so much. His part was not throughout the film, so I was kind of surprised by that. I'm just going to be honest. There were other individuals who definitely partake a little bit more and were, more so on within the story, where they were able to make it towards the end. And one of them was an actor I'm actually familiar with as well. And I want to say his name is Roland Moeller. I hope I'm saying his last name correctly. He's been in quite a few films I like as well. And I always playing a bad guy. I feel for some of the actors when I feel like they get typecast, but he definitely played his character right. There was another gentleman on here, and I cannot remember his actual name, but he was more so out of the group of guys, like the most evil and heinous of them all. Now, when you see them finally take over, let's just say, and I think some people might comment, and I'm going to say it, none of this would have transpired where she had to reveal herself as being, now I can say, a vampire, if it wasn't for her son Elias feeling the need. Mom, I found a spot on this map, whatever, where you can hide, whatever, and all that, so they won't catch you. Because I feel like he was aware clearly of what, his mommy was, and didn't want his mommy to get caught, whatever, and then things, eventually would be revealed to them, whatever, and they might just eventually killed her. But in the end, she ends up getting shot. You saw it in the trailer, it does happen. And needless to say, it sets up, in some ways, a ripple effect of now things are going to have to move at a more faster pace, whatever, with her, eventually realizing she has to find a way to deal with these hijackers and also save her son, and eventually trying to save the people on the flight as well. There's one individual who's on this. It's an name. I want to say, is it Kaya Seti? He plays a ferret. He's kind of befriends Elias while they're waiting to board the flight, and he's of course on the same flight as them. Now, there was an agenda from the overall storyline where they're hijacking this plane. They have a note written. They have certain individuals who can speak the native and wanted to address that. So when they did that, they will set it up, whatever, where these people clearly were going to be killed, in this, flight, and they were going to find a way to parachute themselves out of it, whatever, and get to the designated spot, whatever, and that would have been that. But due to nausea, being able to, of course, hear some, and then being able to realize there's more to this, whatever, and all that, she's trying to thwart their, overall plans. And with them turning the plane around, hence not going the way she needs to go to get where she needs to be, to get, the help she needs to deal with her situation, she wasn't having it. And that's kind of where they kind of definitely go to butt heads, whichever, and you kind of see that. I will say through the course of the film, you do get times where when she's dealing with the situation on the actual plane, you do see flashbacks. We get a flashback of seeing how she ended up being, bitten. You see the scene of her with her husband. They're forced playing in the snow. She has her son, Elias, kind of, nice, in a, to her chest, wrapped around her. And eventually at night they're driving and then something happens where I'm assuming, I don't know if it's a starter or something happens where the car shuts down. They get the hug and kiss and he goes out to find someone, whichever. She's there for a while. But then she eventually gets out, and as they say in movie theaters, you shouldn't be doing that, or just in movies in general, especially in a horror. She ventures out, and of course, in the middle of God knows where, yelling out her husband's name. You don't know what's out there. And she eventually finds what looks like to be a home, and she thinks that he might have went there and might probably get some help. Unbeknownst to her, he was there, but before you see him, you see and you hear the sounds of something growling and snarling, and she's trying to run to escape so she doesn't get hurt or her son. And she comes across her husband who has been, bitten. He looks like he has now been left for dead. And in the midst of her trying to stay alive, that creature tries to come through one of the windows from the basement. And when she tries to fend him off, she gets bitten on her hand. So that's kind of pretty much it. So you get back to the hijacking. You're dealing with all these scenarios with a lot of the passengers on there. One of the guys who actually infiltrated the flight attendants, acting like he was one of the guys working with them. He's the most vile of them all. And let's just say that when they realize she is not where she needs to be, being that they thought he killed her, they realize they have to find her. She's of course trying to put up certain little smoke screens for them not to get it, but eventually she ends up in the actual pilot hatch. They had already killed one of the pilots. One of the guys infiltrated the pilot's room as well. And when you see what they try to do, they have to kill one hostage, whichever. When they brought the child, it brought out the vampire in her, the nails coming out to see whatever. And let's just say she went to town, whatever, slightly revealed to the mean one who shot her in the first place. And that's when he decides to investigate her a little bit, goes through her purse, finds like what looks like to be the notebook where she kept track over time of what was happening to her, not realizing at the time what was truly probably happened to her, but keeping track of it all. You see scenes of her having to adapt to being a vampire while raising her baby. And one scene was really interesting, her trying to feed her baby and then drinking blood, from some, hamburger meat, and then getting so frustrated with her son, crying and hissing at him, and he's terrified and she's scared of herself and, checking her fangs and trying to rip them out. It was a lot. And you could see with Perry doing all these different emotions, all the different scenes. I just love how she conveyed when she was able to save the girl from not being killed as another hostage that they were using to thwart her plans for them to turn the plane around. She wanted to let the little girl know she was, don't be afraid. And you just felt for her because the girl was still scared, and rightfully so. She has no wig on. You see her pointed ears, you see her eyes, you see her teeth, and it just pains her, to be like this. Her son at times was scared because she yelled at the pilot to turn it around, literally showing fangs and everything. But we got to turn this around. We got to stop them. We have to get rid of them, whatever. And in the midst of this, when she gets, confronted by that, guy who was a fake flight attendant, whatever, and he, uses like a UV ray light on her to kind of, disorient her or whatever, he basically gets on top and he takes some of the blood. Really, bro? So in the midst of this, and I'm thinking, why would she want to do that? You could see her looking like no, and eventually things happen where her son eventually tries to help mom or whatever, and all causing more conflict. Certain things start happening, and it gets involved with a lot of passengers, being put in situations in harm's way, turbulence with the plane. Eventually, that creep ends up in one of the cars, whatever. And all, she's trying to get to him so she can get rid of him, but he has the syringe with the blood. He decides to utilize it, and she tries to burn him up in the car. She thinks that she's done it, but due to the plane, it causes to put the fire out, whatever, and all that. So he's not fully dead. So we're dealing with all this other stuff. You're dealing with some of the passengers trying to help each other. Then him infected. He's still a vampire. He ends up biting one of the guys as well, kills one of them, uses them as food with the blood, whatever. And then eventually they're trying to work their way up to get to the passengers. And one by one, just, turning them. One of them lets him in. It's just like they always have to put one real stupid person who does something so dumb that causes so much, just catastrophic, things to happen to innocent people. And it's just this one jerk who was on the flight. And of course it would be him. And that's when she rises to the occasion again, doing all the things she needed to do to save. She asks the guy, like I said, Farrah, to, she wants him to watch, make sure you take care of my son because if God forbid something happened, we want to try to find a way to, get the detonator when they were trying to bomb up this plane or whatever, and use that to blow it up, whatever, because we can't let these people get off. They're being infected. If, it does land somewhere and they get off, they'll go out and massively infect other people, and it could just, just totally get out of control. And in the midst of that, she eventually, gets up her hand on that mean guy. He's, fighting, trying to get to her son. He basically was trying to help his mom by going into the little hatch, in the air ducts to get to it, whatever and all. He did a good job at first, but it's just like sometimes, certain people distract with him and all that, dropping UV lights. And I was just like, if this little boy doesn't get it together, but he's a boy, he's a little, look like 10-year-old little boy. So in the midst of it, eventually, it's just, it's her. A lot of them are actually have been affected now. There's a moment that was so sad where the son thought he had lost his mother. He basically feeds her some blood. She eventually wakes up, but then she basically pushes him away. I think that's the one little time where she still had a little bit of human left in her to realize no, and he kept trying to grab her to comfort her, and she's like no, and she eventually goes away. She's really visible in her look, just being the vampire, whatever, and all that, like. And she kind of, looks at him and shamefully looks away, then goes towards the other, vampires. And you could see the boy is so sad. Eventually you see the little boy, he comes out of the plane. They're all in there because it's still daytime. They can't come out because of the sun. So he was protected from being hurt. And then, the military, the police, they don't want to believe, Farrah because he's in there. He was bitten, but she chopped his arm off. She knew, once he said he couldn't feel his hands, the change was going to eventually find his way down his body and his bloodstream. He would have eventually became an actual vampire as well. So she was, one of those last humane things she was able to do was to save him. And from that, um, they don't want to believe because at the beginning you see, them asking him what happened. He tells the whole story and they're like, oh, he's in shock. And I can see them feeling that way. And then you see the scene of course, Farrah trying to explain to him why he's still inside of the pilot hatch where he can't get out because they don't believe him. They think he's one of the hijackers. And eventually they're trying to shoot up. So he's like, I got to get to this thing. I got to blow up this, the ship. Even if I get blown up with it, they can't get out of here. The little boy, they're trying to sedate him eventually. And, he finds a way to, to maneuver to the one of the actual people on the ambulance to give him the injection. He gets off, runs to the plane. You see some of them jumping out when some of the military goes in and starts shooting up, and you see some of the body cams. And of course, that's when they really start realizing what that little boy was telling them. Like, what is that? You see fangs. And I like the last and final scene, really, where it shows him, the little boy, he sits and he sees what looks like to be his mother. She's feeding. She doesn't know this, but she hears his voice, but she is gone. She's truly gone. And she charges at him, and he's so sad because now he knows he has no choice but to kill his mother because his mother is about to kill him, and he blows up the actual pain with them. It was really, I will say, like, the setup at the beginning, definitely, slow, and then it gets intense when they, of course, get onto the plane. I love the in-between with the overall scene with the, the flashback, the storyline, how this all came to be, the situation she's in, and why she's, heading where she is. Getting a little bit of, interactions with the other passengers and one in particular, and, her feeling, confident enough to believe that this man will make sure her son's okay because she knows once it's all said and done now, she's not going to be able to go where, because it's like if she's exposed or whatever, or she's able to make it off the plane, where is she going to go? She's not able to get to where she needed to be to get the help she needed from the doctor. She's stuck. Who knows where they landed, truthfully. And just, overall, that just trying to now save her son. She made it all about, because it's always been about her child being okay, after what happened to her husband. And then, just like I said, that sad ending. But in the end, Elias wasn't alone. Ferret eventually was able to get over to him, and the guy let them tell them to handcuff him so he can console the little boy because he's not all alone. And like I stated before, definitely done very well. I really liked the way Perry Baumeister played Naja. She did an excellent job in showcasing the mother being all about protecting her son, dealing with what's happening to herself, and trying to still be there. I tell you, just thinking about that, trying to live whatever normal life, whichever, and then making certain plans and having to do certain things, and your son, of course, rising the occasion to help your mom, whatever, unbeknownst to anybody around you, not knowing, yeah, his mother's a vampire. I will say also, Dominic Purcell got killed early. That's why when I made the comments, he wasn't in there long. This is almost like, he was in it for a little bit, and then that was it. Was the other main guys, evil, hijackers that made it almost towards the end of the daggone movie. But yeah, it is, for what it was. But also, I will say it, that little boy at times was irking my ever loving nerves with the way he was carrying on and doing things, and I listened to his mother. But as I said before, certain things like this is what pushes the movie to continue on the movie and what we get. So he was a catalyst for what happened thereafter and what preceded and the things in between as well from that. But in the end, I really did enjoy this film. I so enjoyed it so much that after I watched it, probably later on, late in the evening, I watched it and I watched it again the next day. So I really did really enjoy this. I thought it was well done in regards to keeping my attention. Definitely, with action scenes in it, whichever. Definitely with the suspense, the horror aspect with that. Yeah, I really did enjoy it. So with that said, you guys comment below if you did get a chance to tell me what your thoughts are. And with that said, I'll see you guys in the next movie review. You guys take care.